And it is basically fallacious. So I have come to rise to the challenge from Eduardo when he asked me, what would my father, Karl Polanyi, have thought about basic income? Well, when the question was posed, of course, I have at first no answer because he never particularly addressed that particular proposal, and perhaps he had never heard of it. So that sent me back to rereading many of the writings of my father, which I've been doing for the last week or two, with a view to answering the question posed, but also, of course, with that kind of consciousness that my father's main work, The Great Transformation, which I'm sure most of you have read. If you have not read, you have heard of it. It is certainly his most important single work, was written in the turmoil and in the consciousness and in the conditions of those changes in Europe associated with the 1930s and the great world economic crisis of 1931 to 33. And we are here once again in a financial crisis of enormous dimensions. And so now I was reading it also with a view to what it has to say, or what thoughts might occur to us that are relevant to our world today. So I think perhaps the first, how to break into this topic, I thought I would perhaps very briefly attempt to give you a summary of the social philosophy of Karl Polanyi. We have heard a number of references to Amartya Sen's work and the development as freedom, and the concept of capabilities and functionings and personal development as the aim of social development. And I think it is very difficult to disagree with that. But I would say that that comes from a philosophical liberalism, in the best sense of that word, whereas I would say, I would describe my father as coming from a variety of socialism. My father was a socialist, but he was very conscious of the importance of maintaining personal freedom and personal liberty in any kind of society. Where is the difference? Well, I'm a little out of my field. I'm only an economist. But I would say the starting point of my father's approach would be the consciousness of what he called the reality of society. That is, rather than starting from the individual, it was a viewpoint that would more start with the society, in the sense that we are, as a species, a social species. We cannot, and we do not, and cannot live outside society. And therefore, any notion of individual freedom has to be conceived of in terms of our relationship to society. My father was a very passionate person. He believed and he had very strong beliefs. And I think one of his early beliefs were that intellectuals at that time, I'm speaking now about some time before the First World War, have a responsibility, somehow a responsibility to society. There were articles he wrote early on in Hungarian, I have read only into translation, which speak about the responsibility of his generation, of our generation, as he called it, for all the disasters which happened from 1914 on to Europe. So the idea of freedom went very closely linked with the idea of responsibility. And I think that his aversion, because it was, I think, an aversion to the commercialization of life, you know that he critiqued the market society, but I think behind that there was a feeling that the increasing impersonality of social relations and turned into market relations of buying and selling, etc., were depersonalizing life, that any form of socialism would have to take account of the responsibility of people for their communities, for their society, for their democracy, etc. So he never believed in a centrally planned economy because it was an undue concentration of political power. In that way, he seemed to have been quite prescient. But he wanted to construct some form of socialist economy, which was more built on a functionalist, associational, corporatist, in a sense, a model of different interest, people having interest as workers, as consumers, as citizens, represented and negotiated in some kind of way. He wrote a lot of things to this effect in Vienna in the 1920s. A debate with the advocate of liberalism, von Mises, while he was otherwise earning what he called an honest living as a journalist. I may say I don't have time to tell family anecdotes, although I would love to, but his mother, my grandmother, had very definite ideas as to what each of the children should be, and my father was to be a lawyer, and then the next uncle, Michael, was to be a doctor, and the oldest brother was to follow in the footsteps of the father to be an engineer and an entrepreneur. He had the oldest uncle, that is, his name was Adolf, would have none of it, and at a very early age departed from Hungary to go about as far as anybody could at that time, which was to Japan, where he stayed for a long time, and eventually to Italy, and in Italy he fell afoul of Mussolini and emigrated to São Paulo, where he lived here for very many years and died in the city. I thought I had to share this with you. A small family connection to São Paulo. But to resume, my father, who was to be the lawyer and articled in the offices of his very prosperous uncle, decided he would have none of that, and became what another family member called a dropout, meaning a dropout of the bourgeois world in which he was supposed to inhabit, which he was to inhabit, and became a journalist. I think he was a marvelous journalist. I have read all of the articles he wrote for the Österreichische Volkswirt. It was the leading financial economic weekly of Central Europe at the time, a German language publication sort of modeled on the London Economist. And he followed international affairs.